It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah. D-U-E-U.
Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and today we're going to preview the San Francisco 49ers. And before we get started, let's take a look at some of the key storylines heading into the Niners season as we go into our 4-minute offense. San Francisco is coming off of a terrible loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, one in which they took a 20-10 lead into the fourth quarter, only to see Kansas City score 21 unanswered and win the game. Losses like that, especially in big games, can carry over into the following season. Fortunately and unfortunately for that matter, head coach Kyle Shanahan has been a part of collapses in big games like that before, back when the Falcons held a 20-3 lead in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, and we all know how that turned out. Now, the following season, he went on to become the head coach here in San Francisco, but we'll be able to draw back from that past experience to help keep this very talented team focused on the current task at hand, and that's getting back to the big game and righting some wrongs. The 49ers lost future Hall of Fame offensive tackle Joe Staley during a surprise retirement during the offseason, but quickly made up for it by signing veteran Trent Williams. The former Washington football team tackle was granted his release from the team and quickly found his way out to the Bay Area and stepping right into the starting left tackle role for San Francisco. Williams sat out all of last season after a dispute with the Washington staff and will look to start anew with the 49ers. The question then becomes, which Trent Williams are the 49ers getting? They hope that they're getting the one who made 7 straight Pro Bowls and not the one who has to shake off rust from a year's layoff. My gut tells me that it's the former and not the latter. One of the many bright spots from the 2019 49ers season was the fact that we finally got to see quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo for a full 16-game season, and it turned out to be a solid one for him as well, completing 69% of his passes, averaging 8.4 yards an attempt, finished with 102 passer rating, and leading the league in fourth quarter comebacks with 4. However, with that success, there were still some questions about his play both in the playoffs and during the Super Bowl. The hope is that he can continue to build on the solid foundation he laid last year as a full season starter and start to answer some of the lingering questions about his game. San Francisco took a hit this offseason with their stud receiver Deebo Samuel suffering a foot fracture which required surgery. Now, the injury isn't supposed to knock him off of the full season, but as GM John stated, he will miss some games this year. How many is the ultimate question. Samuel has dealt with plenty of injuries before, which is why he ended up going in the second round of the draft, and he is a big part of their offensive attack, and if he can miss the minimal amount of games possible, it'll be a win for San Francisco. The hope is that it will be that and not a sign of nagging things to come. Just to echo what I mentioned earlier about Jimmy Garoppolo and how he performed in his first full 16-game season, I do feel as though he can be exactly what he was for them last year for a good stretch of time. Where he has to grow his game is what ultimately could separate him from being a great player or just being another Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff, and that's how he deals with pressure. Now, this is both pressure from the defense and the pressure of the moment or situation. We saw numerous times him display an ability to handle the moment, but it's the former that really gives you a bit of hesitance when evaluating him long term. Maybe a lot of that stems from him protecting himself because he has missed some time, and because if it isn't, then that's an even bigger problem. But when you look at what he does, well, it'll be 2 years removed from an injury. Expect him to be much more of a confident player, I believe, in 2020, which could strengthen his case as a long-term answer for the 49ers. Now, San Francisco also has very good depth at the position, with both Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard being capable of stepping in and guiding the offense if need be. The 49ers have a lot of speed and explosiveness in the backfield, which makes their run game very difficult to defend. Raheem Mostert is coming off of a strong finish to the season where he led the team in rushing with 772 yards and 8 touchdowns. From week 12 on through the playoffs, it was a Mostert show out there on the field. He absolutely lit up the Green Bay Packers to the tune of 220 yards, 4 touchdowns on 29 carries. He slowly took carries away from then starter Matt Breida, who is now in Miami. Now the team hopes to get back a healthy Jerick McKinnon. He's been snake bitten by knee injuries since arriving in San Francisco as a prize free agent signee. He, along with Tevin Coleman, who also finished with over 500 yards rushing, gives the Niners a strong three-headed monster in the backfield. And you can't just leave out Jeff Wilson, who still finds a way to contribute out there on the field as well. I guess you can say four-headed monster when you add in the best fullback in the NFL in Kyle Juszczyk. The four-time Pro Bowler is a dual threat type of fullback, one who's a strong receiver and excellent blocker. He's a +1 type on offense that defenses really have to game plan for. San Francisco was able to get great production out of then rookie Deebo Samuel as he racked up over 800 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. He was such an impactful player, they even used him on end arounds in a run game where he carried the football 14 times for 149 yards and 3 scores. Now that Emmanuel Sanders is gone off to New Orleans, Samuel is expected to take the reins and be the #1 target out there on the perimeter. The Niners also drafted Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State in the first round of the 2020 draft, and he could end up usurping both Kendrick Bourne as well as Dante Pettis. The staff likens Ayuk's game to Samuel in the sense that he's a catch and run guy who has very good athleticism and figures to be given every opportunity to be that Niners co-pilot with Samuel in the passing game. Now with Deebo being expected to miss some time, along with the fact that Sanders is no longer on the roster, the Niners really need guys like Kendrick Bourne and Dante Pettis to step up and make the most of the opportunity. Now Bourne became a solid option last year, scoring 5 touchdowns, while time may be running out on Pettis to make a dent in that depth chart. He'll have to keep away second-year player Jalen Hurd, who figures to factor into the mix. Hurd is stylistically similar to that of Deebo Samuel as well because of his running back background. Once he gets the football in his hands, he reverts back into that running back mode and gives them a different dynamic with the ball. Now the healthy return of both Richie James and Trent Taylor does give them some speedy, shifty guys that they can win short or at the intermediate level of the field. And where the Niners are much more stable is at tight end. George Kittle is arguably the best tight end in football and led the team in receiving last year, going over 1,000 yards with 85 receptions and 5 touchdowns. He just doesn't do it as a receiver. He's one of the better blockers at the position as well. And they get a solid contribution from Ross Dwelly, who was able to do his job admirably when he's called upon, and rookie Charlie Warner out of Georgia is expected to be primarily a blocking option for their potent run game. We spoke earlier about the Trent Williams acquisition and what that potentially means for saving the left side for San Francisco. If he's just 60% of what he was in Washington, they'll be good to go. And honestly, they're in pretty good shape at tackle regardless. Mike McGlinchey, who started 12 games last year, was strong on the right side. Justin School gave them good play when he was thrust into duty. Both he and impressive rookie Colt McKivitz out of West Virginia gives them steady depth at the position. Inside, a lot of the attention will be on Weston Richburg and his return back from an injury, and when he's healthy and out there on the field, he's a very good center. The hope is that he can be just that this season. If he can't go right out of the gate, then Ben Garland, who has started some games for them, will end up getting that spot. Alongside them is Laken Tomlinson, who has sort of a career resurrection out there in San Francisco. He figures to be the starter at left guard, while second-year player Daniel Brunskill has his sights set on the starting right guard spot. He was impressive last year when he got the opportunity to play, and he'll have to hold off a couple of veteran free agent signees in Tom Compton from the Jets, Spencer Long from the Bills, who can also serve as a center if need be. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball with the Defensive Rookie of the Year, Nick Bosa, back for year 2 and looking to continue to build on his impressive debut season. Bosa finished with 9 sacks, 16 TFLs, and an interception, as well as 25 quarterback hits. He was a box score stuffer who impacted the game on both ends of defense. Now the team traded away DeForest Buckner to the Colts, clearing the way for them to extend Eric Armstead, who is coming off of a 10-sack, 11 TFL season, and his 10 sacks led the team in that category. The hope is that this year they're able to get a full 16 games from D Ford, who was brought in last year to provide additional bursts coming off the corner. He did finish with 6.5 sacks, but they were expecting him to be in that double-digit category consistently. So the 49ers do have some legit dudes up front with those 3, and they're banking on rookie first-round pick JAVON KINLAW to be the 4th. He has impressive versatility and athleticism, showing the ability to play across the defensive line, and he's expected to be the Buckner replacement. He's coming off of a solid career at South Carolina and an excellent week of work at the Reese's Senior Bowl. The anticipated depth here looks good as they're expecting to get guys back healthy like Ronald Blair, DJ Jones, and Julian Taylor. I hope that Kentavious Street can stay healthy as he gives them another versatile player who can pressure the quarterback. Solomon Thomas, a former first-round pick, will continue to be a swing player across the front. His fifth-year option wasn't picked up, so he's playing for a contract extension here in San Francisco or with another team, and you hope the light can come on as he can be a consistent player for them. I believe he and free agent signing Kerry Hyder will be the swing depth along the defensive line. Speed and athleticism is the name of the game here at the second level for San Francisco. They have two really good linebackers in Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. Warner, who is one of the top linebackers in football, led the team in tackles last year, and Greenlaw, who was a rookie fifth-round pick last season, finished second. Now, Quan Alexander has a talent, but he has to find a way to stay healthy. He only played in 8 games last year, and like D Ford, he needs to justify that contract, and if he's able to stay out there all season, you can make the case that San Francisco may have the best starting trio at the position in the NFC. And Joe Walker and Aziz Al-Shahir give them good rotational depth and special teams help as well. While the secondary was stable last year for San Francisco, there is still room for improvement as there are some questions. I believe that most of the questions, honestly, are at corner outside of Richard Sherman, who led the team in interceptions last year with 3 and broke up another 11 passes while making All-Pro honors for the 3rd time in his future Hall of Fame career. K'Wan Williams is an excellent slot corner, so his position figures to be safe. He's one of the more underrated at the position in the NFL. On the outside, expect to see a battle between second-year player Tim Harris Jr., Emmanuel Mosley, and Ahkello Witherspoon. Harris is the one I expected to make a major leap forward after missing his entire rookie season with an injury. He's a tall, physical corner that presses well. Now, both Mosley and Witherspoon have shown flashes at times, with the latter being essentially on a bubble after getting himself benched and not even playing in the Super Bowl. You can probably put Dante Johnson in that same boat as Witherspoon. Both guys really need to raise their level of play this upcoming season. A healthy Jason Verrett at this juncture of his career would give them good depth behind Williams inside at slot corner. Now, safety is in a much better spot in my opinion with both Jaquiski Tartt and Jimmy Ward, as it has been a theme with this football team. Health is the key. Both guys missed some time last season with injuries, but Tavarius Moore is a promising player out of Southern Miss who played really well when he had to step in and start 3 games last year. He brings good athleticism to the table, and Marcel Harris is a valuable reserve strong safety, and I like his ability to tackle one-on-one in space and play down in the alley. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by 9th and Lux. Visit the website 9thandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. Financial Coaching LLC, investment, retirement, security, stewardship credit. Financial growth is in your hands. Stewardshipcredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Look for rookie wide receiver Jawan Jennings out of Tennessee to surprise in training camp. What will help him stand out is the passion and enthusiasm in which he plays the game. You can tell that he takes pride in his work, and that'll show positively in front of the Niners staff. He's going to be a stud core special teamer in year one. Defensively, undrafted rookie free agent linebacker JONAS GRIFFITH out of Indiana State is the one to keep an eye on. He plays with his hair on fire and has tremendous upside as well. He's coming off of a strong week at the 2020 College Gridiron Showcase where he made a series of plays every practice. Brennan will be the offensive rookie impact player. He's got a clear lane to make an impact considering his talent, his draft status, and the current status of that depth chart. And JAVON KINLAW was a specific target for the 49ers, which is why they felt comfortable in trading DeForest Buckner. I would expect them to have big plans for the former South Carolina Gamecock this upcoming season. Trent Williams will be the biggest X factor offensively because of who he is replacing and what he went through all last season. You probably won't find a more motivated player than the big left tackle. Defensively, Tim Harris Jr. will be looked upon to be that starting outside corner opposite of Richard Sherman. If not the starter, then a significant step forward in year two is expected for the former Virginia Cavalier. Look for Jalen Hurd to have a breakout season. He's got the versatility and now the comfort within his offensive system. He looked impressive in the preseason last year. I think he'll be ready to take off in 2020. And I still believe in Kentavious Street's talent and what he can bring to this defense. I'll take the positive approach and say he'll stay healthy, proving to be a valuable rotational piece up front defensively. One of the biggest reasons for optimism for San Francisco is that this defense can still be dominant. I love what they have up front along that defensive line with JAVON KINLAW adding to the mix. That second level is active, athletic. They can cover, they can get out there and pressure. They do a great job of playing complete defense. So this defense still can make plays. And speaking of plays, Kyle Shanahan still has plays. I love his offensive mind. I love what he's able to do out there within the run game. He always keeps the defense off balance. And because of those two things, I think you still have to be optimistic about San Francisco's chances. A cause for concern would be if they're tinkering with the offensive line and the cohesiveness isn't there just quite like it was last season. You're replacing a left tackle in Joe Staley, albeit with Trent Williams, but you also may have a little bit of shuffling on the interior at guard. So that's something to keep an eye on. And also on defense, if those corners don't step up opposite of Richard Sherman, if they're still lagging behind in what Sherman brings to the table, this passing game could potentially struggle and be an Achilles heel for San Francisco defensively. The road to the Super Bowl for the 49ers goes as follows if that receiving core takes the next step. You're talking about Deebo Samuel fighting his way back from an injury, and you talk about a lot of youth at that position, guys that have to make that next step forward. You're talking about Brandon Ayuk, you're looking at Dante Pettis, Jalen Hurd. If they're able to take the next step, it helps their offense out as a whole. And Jimmy G has to cut down on the turnovers. I still feel as though he threw too many interceptions. He put the ball on the turf too often. If he can cut those in half, this offense will score at least 10 to 13 more points per game. And I spoke earlier about an optimistic point about San Francisco, talking about their front seven. If that front seven stays dominant, then San Francisco can find themselves back in the mix going to Tampa for the Super Bowl. I have San Francisco finishing fourth in the NFC West. I think this year's team would be like the Rams last year, a team that has a winning record, but finishing fourth in the division. I do think they'll be right back in the mix with their defense, their run game, but I still have some questions about the secondary. I have some questions about the reshuffling along the offensive line, and I still have questions about Jimmy Garoppolo versus pressure. So all of that being said, I do think they'll have enough to have a winning season, but this division got better this offseason, so I do see them finishing fourth in the NFC West. So that's it for this edition of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32. I am Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts, and don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. And that's where you can find our NFL All 32 podcast. And keep it locked here on the Football Game Plan YouTube channel, where we're going to have a ton of 49er related video content coming down the pike.
It's D-U-E, you tell I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.